Hey everybody, what's up? This match is against a really aggressive opponent. This guy likes to raise a lot, put you under pressure post flop, represent sort of scare cards. Basically, he uses aggression to put you under an awful lot of pressure. So my plan is going to be to try and trap him and hopefully run good enough to win the match. Right, first hand, he's min raising and happy to call that, and this is the exact sort of flop that he can represent. With his min raise, it's not that likely that he's got an ace here, but he's going to pretend he does, and if I raise him, I doubt he'll fold. He'll try and float me and push me off on the turn or river. Right, limping, and he doesn't attack my limp. Looks like a pretty good flop for me, middle pair and a straight draw. And he comes over the top. Gonna call this a 10, or obviously a 7 will be good. I expect a queen will be good, and that's just about the worst possible card, and he bets full pot and takes it down. He folds pre-flop, which is not that common for this guy. I try raise and immediately get called, and I just check it. The reason I'm checking it is this is a sort of board that he is going to not believe has hit my raising range, and he could very well call me and push me around. Now I'm just betting on the turn here, trying to protect my 7, make him pay in case he's got a 9 or a jack, and he folds, so that worked out okay. And 4x from him, nice hand, but I'm not going to be re-raising and getting all my chips in or anything like that. And pretty much a horrible flop. And the turn is, I expect, the worst card in the deck. And he's bet almost full pot. I just got to let that go. Alright, limping, and he attacks my limp, so he's keeping up his aggression, beating me up. Haven't won a hand, except for one small pot in the last sort of 4 or 5. But gotta stay cool. Your time will come if you're patient enough. Alright, raising, and he donks. Not convinced that he's got something here. I could, pretty sure I could raise him, but I'm not going to take the chance at this stage. And he 5x's. I played this guy yesterday, and he was raising like to 300 or 400 pre-flop. So he's calmed down a lot since then, but he's still pretty aggressive. And here on 8-7, he's been having sort of a carte blanche to just be aggressive against me, and I've just sat back and taken it, and now I'm finally making a move, and I get called, and that's a pretty good looking flop, you've got to think, giving me a straight draw, considering I've raised on absolute trash. And I check it, intending to check call, I think, and now the 10 I'm going to bet, and I've been called, and now I know he's really aggressive. I think if I check this, there's a fair chance that this guy will bluff at me. So check, and he bets 700, and I'm pretty happy with the size of this pot. I'm not going to go shoving in. I don't think I'll get called by worse. I think the only hands that he's going to call a shove with will be full houses or better straights. It's possible if he had a 10, but you know, I just basically think there's not that much value in shoving. And he had ace 7, so he called the 3-bet on ace 7, which is a pretty ordinary hand. Called the turn, and then bluffed the river, which is pretty much what I expected him to do, and what I played him to do once the jack came and I hit the straight. Right, fold the jack 2, and the reason I'm folding that is he's just lost a pot, and I expect him to get aggressive. And queen 7, and 10-2, and 7-4, so we've had just a load of old junk. And a limp, and call his raise. Wouldn't normally call ace 4 if it wasn't a deep stacked game, and I know this guy's so aggressive that if I do hit, there's a good chance I'll be ahead. Right, folding to the 120 pot. Not sure what his bet sizing means. Most people, I would suggest, this is probably them trying to control the pot size, but this guy could also be inducing you know, trying to get me to raise him when he's flopped a monster. So it's going to flat it, and the turn brings another ace. That's obviously a great card, and I think I'll flat it one more time. See if a diamond's coming on the river, which I know is a little bit passive, but I'm also not 100% sure I'm good. And now he bets 230. I think I'll just raise and fold if he shoves. And he lets that one go. So far so good. We've had, I don't know how many hands, 10 or 12, and he's won the vast majority, but I've won the big pots, and that's what counts. Alright. And can't hit. I'm not going to bet and let him be aggressive. And 5 on the river, he bets pot. I can't see him having a 5 here. I think he would have bet a 10 earlier, and an 8 as well. So I call, and in fact, he slow played his 8, which is just completely bizarre and surprises me. I had no idea that he wouldn't bet that on the turn. Alright, limping my a6, and looks like a pretty good flop. Calling it, and now when he checks the turn, I'm always going to bet here, try and get the fold immediately, but he check raises me, and I'm not strong enough to call this. He could well be bluffing, but I've only got 320 chips in the pot. I'll let it go. By that I mean 320 of my chips in the pot. Alright, easy fold to his 5x, and folding my 10-4. Not limping that much against a guy who's attacking pre-flop, and he will attack my limps too. Not just from the button. That's a good flop. And donks again. Raise him, get called. He could have anything here. Literally anything. And I'm just going to bet the full pot. Make him pay if he wants to hit a diamond or a second pair. And he's out of there. And of course loses the hand and raises. Lets me limp. And I don't believe that he's going to turn up with a hand here very often. I think I'm going to call this and see what happens on the turn. That's a pretty good card. Just going to raise it up. And low chances he's got either a king or a 9. And good chance that I'm ahead here and get a fold, but I don't really want to just flat call him, because if I do that, no more chips are going to go in unless he sucks out with, say, a 10 or a jack or a queen on the river. So I'll just raise him straight away, get the fold, and then fold my 7-5. And 4x, I think we're deep enough that I'm going to call this, try and hit, and that's a lovely looking flop. And my plan here is going to be to flat his flop bet and raise on the turn, as long as the turn is not a jack, ace, 9 or queen. And the 7 of hearts is about as perfect a turn as you could ever see, and I'll just raise him here. If he's got a jack or an ace, he's really going to have to pay to hit that straight, and he folds. So things are going along okay, but I had this guy in trouble yesterday, down to like 500 or 600 chips, and he came back to beat me after he ran pretty good. So I'm going to be fairly careful against him and make sure I get the win this time. Alright, and now that he hasn't bet the turn, I suspect he doesn't have a king or a 6. Might have just been air, and yep, I can easily call that, and my ace is good. And I'm going to limp call king 10 and miss the flop horribly, and I'm not doing anything spectacular at this guy, against this guy. I'm not adverse to making moves, but you can't do it too often. Just folding and, you know, waiting. I've got such a big lead, can afford to be a little bit patient. And he's getting very aggressive pre-flop and attacking my limps and so on. I'll just wait. And here we finally hit a hand. That's a rather nice flop. Flop the nuts. Let's see what he wants to give me. 150, thank you. Maybe I should raise him straight away. And the reason I should raise him straight away is if he's got a hand like ace jack or king jack or something like that, or even king 10 or ace 10, he could well ship in this spot. Whereas now this 8 is a card that could well kill the action. So just betting, and Alright, so the 8 actually wasn't such a bad card, it gave him the straight, but in general I think it's better for me to probably raise the flop there. So got him down to 1145 or whatever, but as usual, finishing off is not going to be the easiest part here. 180 is the pot, I have to let my bottom pair go. That's a problem when you call with stuff like ace-2. When you hit the 2, you've always got overcards. When you hit the ace, you're not so sure if you kick her. 6-7, going to call, going to miss, and going to let him win the pot. Not much I can do. And folding queen 6, probably a little tight there. And 10-9, decide to call this, and not a great flop, but I can't complain, I've hit a few flops. Now I'm going to raise and try and put some pressure on him. He's been taking all the blinds. And let that one go. Raise again. Nice flop, and he comes out firing. He loves to donk full pot and put me under pressure, but he's not putting me under too much pressure when I've flopped what's probably going to be the nuts. And 10 on the turn doesn't worry me, because if I hit the queen I'm good, if I hit the king I'm good, I expect, and if I hit the 8 I expect I'm good, so that's a good turn for me. I can afford to slow play this by checking. And now the king, nice scare card which he's trying to represent here, the queen, but I have the queen, so I'm happy to raise him, and he insta-folds. So once again letting him donk off his chips. The important thing on this hand is to recognize the texture and know that nothing's going to scare you. Once the 10 comes, you know, you're either hitting a straight or a full house, so you know there's nothing going to worry in that spot. I suppose there's a flush, but in general it looks like a great and safe spot. Alright, shoves, and I let ace-2 go. Fair chance I'm ahead. Yesterday he shoved on something like jack-7 in that spot. And now I'm going to come over the top with ace-5. And queen 8. He's got, what is it, 13 or 14 big blinds. Probably close to a shove, but I'll let it go. And cannot catch. Trying to control him with a min raise. And there is a heart flush out. I don't know if I call him if I'm getting any more chips. And I think I just have to let that go. I can't really raise him. I can't really do anything. I can't really push him off it. It's one of those spots where I think he's bluffing, and even though I think that he's so short, I don't really want to mess up and call him and get him back in the game. So let it go. Ace-9, shove, and that makes up for the last one a little bit. And folding 8-9, basically anything I get now I'm going to have to go in with, I think. Try limping and get away with it, and he donks full pot. And part of his game is that he's donking a lot when he doesn't have it, but also sometimes when he does, which makes him pretty hard to deal with sometimes. And let him have this pot because I'm not going anywhere with my 5-4. Playing pretty tight against him, but call here and hit a nice hand. Surely this is going to be the end of the match. No bet. No bet. Please bluff the river. And he checks it down. Unbelievable that this guy never bet at any stage after I flopped the nuts. Pretty stunning. Alright, got to fold 3-5 and 7 jack. And here we get a bit of a run of horrible cards. Try a min raise. He bets and I give it up. He's donking a lot, and I don't really want to try and out-aggress him because I'm going to pick the wrong time. Alright, fold my jack 3, king 9, and good looking flop. He calls me, and now I'm just going to shove, or basically get the chips in. I don't want to give him a chance to hit one spade or something like that. And he turns out to have 2 spades, and he's back in the match. Lovely. So we did our best. Top pair. Don't think I overplayed it considering what sort of a player this guy is. So there's some more life in this one. He's back to his aggressive ways. And here I've got ace 10. Just flat it. Could possibly shove. pretty big raise here. He checked the flop. Not really sure what he's got, but I'm going to call. And he checks behind. Two pair. Yuck. Maybe I should have just shoved ace 10 pre-flop is what I'm thinking. Alright, I'm going to raise this. C-bet. And get the fold. That works. Surprised he didn't donk out for once. Fold my 9-6. And pocket sixes. Going to limp call. 2 over cards. He's betting full pot. And now that reduces the chance he's got a 7 very greatly. He bets full pot on the turn. This is a spot where I'm either folding or shoving, and I think if he's got a 9, good luck to him. I'm going to stick it in, and he insta-folded, so that worked out great. Alright, 6-7, gut shot, full pot, have to let it go, and basically he's very, very difficult to control. Min raise, and he donks, and I'm going to try and push him around now. Queen on the turn doesn't help. Oh, sorry, doesn't hurt, I mean. And 8 on the river is just fantastic. And he can't call, so he was full of it. He probably had something like 5-6 or something like that, or 5-7. Alright, we've chopped a leg off him. He's down to 700, but he's gone into shove mode. And that's no good. Make a pretty bad call here and then have to fold. I think not the best call pre-flop. Alright, 5-6, and here he donks for the millionth time, and I decide to make a play here. I'm going to flat him, and I'm going to be aggressive on the turn. I just shove, trying to represent the ace, but hard to represent the ace when he has it, as well as a 4, and yuck, that's a complete disaster. He's right back in the game. So he's up to 2,000 now, and that hurts. And it's probably a bit of a tilt shove, but that's the way it goes. And he calls on ace jack, and no 9. This is a disaster. I've gone from winning the match, doubled him up twice in a row, and unless I get lucky here, I'm on 1760 chips. What a disaster. King on the turn, which means to split this I can hit a king or a 2 or a 10, and the river's a miracle 10. Thank goodness for that. So my little shove there didn't hurt in the end, but I was very lucky. Tilt there. I guess that's all of these tilt. Alright, ace 3, controlling him pre-flop, and he donks again. I'm going to call. Beautiful turn, and I raise him in that. I don't know. I mean, maybe I should have flatted. I think the thing here is, I'm not going to get many chips on the river unless he hits what he's looking for. He could have something like 2-4 or 4-6 or 2 clubs or even possibly 2 spades. I don't want to give him a chance to hit that draw cheap. I'd rather raise, and if he folds, he folds. Alright, king 3, and for some reason I decide to call this. Not really the greatest call, but it is the crabbler after all. And could shove, but don't. That's a really nice turn, and now I'm just controlling pot size. And I'll just check it down, as does he. And he had the 8, which is pretty unlucky. If I had a shoved post flop, I would have got his whole stack. But I played a sort of small ball pot there, and I'm not unhappy with that. I mean, if I miss the king or the spade draw, I can get out on the turn, and I'm happy with that. If the turn is a 5, I'll just fold it up. Alright, min raise to control him, represent either the ace or the queen, and get a fold. And it's been a pretty tough match against this guy. He's really difficult to handle, and if you don't get any cards, he's impossible to handle. And alright, just a min raise. I've min raised a lot of other hands hoping to get some action. And what I'm going to do here is not get check raised on the flop. I'm going to check, and I'm just basically going to let him bluff at me if he wants to. And that worked out alright, so I got some chips there with my 10-10. If I bet the flop, I'm probably not getting anything. I had to show a bit of weakness. It was a bit of a risky play. I mean, the overcards coming, that's not what you want. You are taking the risk that a king, ace, jack, whatever's going to come, or even a diamond, so I'm not convinced it was good play, but I made it and it worked out. Alright, 6-7, call, This looks like a nice flop for me. I've got a gut shot middle pair. I'm going to go with this. He's got 2 overs and the 7 as an out, so that gives him 3, 6, 9 outs. So I guess he's roughly, I haven't worked this out, but he's probably about 35%, so I'm a strong favourite here, but not after that 7 on the turn, and that's the end of that. Yuck. Alright, min raise, and he shoves, and I'm going to shove him, and he calls on ace 2, just got to avoid the 2. Flop looks good, turn looks good, no club and no 2 please. And that's the end of the match. So I hope you've enjoyed this one against a pretty aggressive opponent. A lot of the time all you can do is pop control, and when you do catch something, hope that he's going to bluff at you, and that seemed to work pretty well in general against this guy. So until the next one, I hope you all run good.